Good morning. Welcome, everybody. And for those of you that were in the prayer room, the prayer chat, prayer stream, welcome back. I want to give a shout out. Let's see if we've got any super chats. Thank you all for your support. Let's see. Of course, we'll cover our usual announcements. We have less than 3 weeks until the conference. I did call the hotel, our partner hotel, with the conference, Butte, Best Western Plus, Butte Plaza, and there are still rooms available. But that it expires the 26th, so you will have to. You can get rooms. But that deal will expire on the 26th. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4 days. So in order to get that deal, you need to purchase your tickets to the MontaNIKA, Orthodox MontaNIKA Conference. Tickets are going to sell out for the conference. So make sure you don't wait too long. And again, like I said, if you want to avail of the amazing hotel deal, those rooms at regular price right now are over $200. You're getting that for a discount of $115, but you can only get that by the 26th. So, Feeling the Wolf donates £2. Thank you so much, dear brother. Another regular contributor. So get that. Our newest announcement in addition. His Eminence Metropolitan Jonah will be coming to do one of the workshops. I think that given the success of the talk that I did with St. Paisios Brotherhood, which is one of our sponsors too, and they will be here too to do a workshop. But given the success that we had on Tuesday night with the theme of my talk, betrayal and forgiveness, I'm actually going to do 2 of those workshops as a workshop instructor for the conference. So there was another topic that I was going to actually do, but this is such a great healing discussion on betrayal and forgiveness and how we approach that as Orthodox that I really want to actually do that now. And everything that I learned from the men that shared their experiences and everything that we worked through in that healing process Tuesday night with the Brotherhood. So that's news too for the Orthodox MontaNIKA. The way the workshops work, if I just show you, just so you know the structure of, let's go over the itinerary real quick. What's going on with this thing? There are people who are arriving early because His Grace, not a lot, but you're welcome to come as early as you want. Our bishop, His Grace Bishop Maxim, will be arriving and doing our patronal feast day hierarchical liturgy for Pentecost, and then in Helena, at our mission parish, which we haven't had, it's a newly formed mission parish within the last 3 years, a satellite mission out of Holy Trinity Butte in the Helena area. It's called Holy Ascension. It's a wonderful, beautiful, it's obviously not as big as Holy Trinity. It's a smaller building, smaller church. But that's in Clancy. That's Holy Ascension. Holy Spirit Monday, we'll have a divine hierarchical liturgy. And then Wednesday, there is at another chapel to be announced, we'll have a divine hierarchical liturgy. That's a chapel that His Grace Bishop Maxim has blessed on a large piece of property that one of our parishioners owns, and a beautiful tucked around in the mountains. So people are coming early for that. I believe Father Turbo and the Sisters of St. Mary of Egypt will be there early for that. They're coming in either early Tuesday or Wednesday. But anyways, most people come in and start coming in Wednesday. That's why it says arrivals, and Thursday. I will probably be, getting the supplies and everything, the last of the supplies, after the Divine Hierarchical Liturgy, and then bringing them down. I will be down in Butte late Wednesday afternoon. I'll have people in the events staff and coordinators setting up, and then setting up Thursday morning. We'll meet, and then people are arriving Thursday morning, and unofficial, but it's an optional, and people do as they're coming in. We'll probably meet up around noon, 12:30. So I encourage everybody to have a lunch on their own, and we'll organize carpools from Holy Trinity Butte down to the monastery, which is an hour drive. Spend a couple hours down at the monastery in Harrison at St. Peter's, and then come back. Opening banquet, that gives you enough time to wash up, check into your hotel or wherever you're staying. The opening banquet dinner kicks off at 7 p.m. That's when the conference officially begins. So you really don't need to be there before. But Wednesday evening, we'll have meetups in Butte at the various places. And again, here. Then Friday is when the speakers and the actual conference. We start with morning prayers at 8:30. Breakfast. Then Father Panagiotis gives the opening commencement talk. Then we have Therapia workshops. 2 of them, and all the laity. So we have Sarah Barrett-Gill, Charlene, and Gary Metz with the St. Paisios Brotherhood will be doing back-to-back 2 therapy workshops. What that allows you to do is on Friday you can pick at least 2 people and they'll have different themes. For example, I think Gary might be doing brotherhood is necessary. It's not optional in Orthodoxy. Gil, I believe, is doing something on addiction. Sarah is doing stuff on love and from the epistles, establishing boundaries. I can't remember what Charlene. Anyways, they'll have signs set up. You can see what themes. You can pick at least 2 of those. That's the way that we set that up. They do it back to back. So when you're done with one workshop, you can go to another. Then we have lunch. We have Father Turbo is our speaker 2 to 3:30. You're free after that. I'm not organizing any tours. You have to look and see at what time they have like a Butte Underground tour. They have a mining tour. You just have to, that's on your own. You have to, that's not actually established by the conference, or just explore Butte. Guests, dinner is not provided Friday night. You're on your own. That allows you a chance to like explore Butte for dinner on your own. The women, however, do have a dinner provided for them at one of our parishioners' houses. That's the women's group dinner night and fellowship, and be back here, 7:30. The band goes on, and then also the bluegrass band that I play with, String Beans, Beings, will be joining too to follow up the Well-Beaten Path set. Then Saturday we have morning prayers, breakfast, and keynote speaker, His Grace Bishop Maxim, who the conference is under. Then we have the clergy who are providing workshops. So we have an hour workshop here. You can choose among... We have Metropolitan Jonah, our own Proto-Presbyter Father Russell, Archpriest Father Andrew, and myself that you can choose there. And then we repeat again at 2 to 3 after the lunch, which is 12:30 to 2. Then Father Vasilios Thermos is our closing speaker. And then Vespers at 5:30, the final closing banquet dinner. And then we're free, even meetups or fellowship in the hall. And then in the morning, I believe this will, because this grace, I'll change this. I think the hierarchical liturgy will be moved to 9:30 instead of 10. Again, it's a hierarchical liturgy with 2 bishops, a lot of priests. If you haven't experienced that, you've got to see how amazing that is. And then his grace will depart. And then we'll have really kind of closing the conference off with the brunch. And you'll get to meet a lot of the parishioners who didn't join the conference too. So that'll be a wonderful celebration. So that's the structure of the conference. If you're still interested in sponsoring, there's still time. We have our sponsors here: Hellenic College Holy Cross, St. Paisius Brothers Nest Recorder, St. Herman Studios, Laura Coffee. There will be coffee that for purchase with our coffee collab. And okay, got that. Let's see what else. What other announcements? There's no sleeping in the parking lot of the church parking lot. I think we had some issues last year where guys were just sleeping out. You can't do that. We do have free camping at David's property in Whitehall, which is about 30 minutes drive. People enjoy that. In fact, Father Turbo and some of the sisters will be staying there in David's house, but the rest of you can camp there. There's no facilities as far as hookups and showers and stuff like that. That's what we call dry camping, dry dock. I think David does allow you to use the restrooms as long as he's up, but he closes his doors of his house probably at 9:30 or so. I forget when. If you do have a camper, you may run that by Father Russell to see if you have your own toilet within your camper or something like that. He may allow you to pull up the camper in the church parking lot. But we don't, obviously can't encourage you sleeping in the camp parking lot unless you have your own camper or something like that and get approved by Father Russell. I don't think the hotels will all be booked. But they'll be expensive. That's why you want to avail of... You're not going to get a better deal or a better hotel than Butte... the Best Western Plus. So don't wait for that. That's, where most of us will be. There is an app that shows free camping. I think the free camping is kind of a ways out from Butte. I don't think there's anything closer than 30, 45 minutes. But you can check. There is Walmart. You can camp in Walmart, which is about 7 minutes down the road. Well, I have a lot of thoughts about groups and brethren not Orthodox. They're called not Orthodox. They're an errant heresy. It's pretty easy, isn't it? Other announcements, we're having such a great, wonderful class for the online college Canvas course, epistemology course. Yes, we are in week 3. You can easily make that up if you want to add late or go at your own pace. We have 1 scholarship available for somebody in need. Feel free to reach out. There's also payment plans as well. So I'll put that link in there. So I'll keep that registration open for a little bit longer. I'll put that link there. Marshall Maxwell, $4.99. Thank you so much. God bless you. Dave the Philippian, our regular contributor, donates $10. Shout out to Dave. And I think that covers, I believe Punks and Monks is coming. I'm still talking to Justin Marler to see, he owns the Youth of Apocalypse and was BigWhiteStar.com is his company. He was one of the founders of Death to the World. May actually be coming. So that's amazing too. What other announcements? I think that's it. If I can think of anything that comes up as we're talking through this. Partha is still, you can go to any canonical parish. Don't worry about jurisdictions. Every jurisdiction has issues. You're not baptized into a jurisdiction. You're baptized in the Orthodox Church, and you attend a parish that will never be under jurisdiction. So you just need to find, is it a good priest and a good community and good fit for your family? Yeah, people really get caught up on the jurisdiction stuff. There's no based jurisdiction. They all have issues, some more than others, different issues. So you guys are laity. You don't have to think about it. All right, other questions? Yes, I'll do another Canvas course. We haven't done philosophy of science or ethics yet. I've already built out an ethics one. So that's ready to go. I'll build out. And of course, if, there's the ones that we've already done, logic and intro to philosophy. On the times for it's usually 9. If I wake up for some reason really early, I might do, it's rare, 8:30, but typically we try to do them at 9. So around that time. All right, 3 questions in. Like the stream, subscribe if you haven't. What is there? I haven't even looked. Has my subscribers even gone up, or am I just stuck? Am I stuck in a plateau? Where am I at? I never figure out. I thought I'll just do more consistent streams. Of course, I should do some interviews and stuff like that and bring some guests on. And, but let's see, where am I at? I'm forever stuck in 13K. I don't get it. I guess praying isn't a way to, grow your channel, but that's alright, whatever. Praying's more important than growing your channel, so keep in mind, so Rainy Lodge, it's still not clear to me how we avoid foundationalism. To have a foundation doesn't mean you're a foundationalist. So to desire coherence doesn't mean that you're a coherentist. Okay? So what you have to understand is the distinction. Does everybody understand the distinction between autonomous and theonomous? If you don't understand that, then you'll never understand why we don't fall into foundationalism or coherentism. So to have a foundation, or to have something that ultimately is recursive, reflexive, doesn't mean that you're being involved in circularity. The only way to understand that is the radical distinction of the antinomies, an antithesis between revelatory theism, theonomous epistemology, and autonomous epistemology. So the reason why we're not foundationalists, yeah, it avoids the issue of arbitrary. So think about this. Every epistemic position has a starting point as a first principle. The question is, when you look at the first principle, does it do the work that you want it to do? So, work that we all want, so it's not just, well, the Orthodox have these things that it desires epistemically and the rest have something totally different. And remember, there's nothing wrong with circles. You're not committing a fallacy if you draw a circle on a piece of paper. This is the fallacy of geometry and circophobia. There's a bunch of circle bigots out there that just hate circles. Circularity is defined as a informal fallacy of weak induction, which means it's not strong enough to actually form an argument. So the fact that something is recursive or self-referential or something like that doesn't mean that it's viciously circular. That's why I said, does the thing that you're having as your epistemic first principle do the work? The reason why something is viciously circular is precisely that it doesn't do the epistemic work of justifying or explaining, etc. So let's look at foundationalism. Okay, thank you. I won't lose heart. Well, I'd say this is what we all desire. This is what's strong. Does it have explanatory power? Does it have coherence, right? You obviously want your stuff not only to not contradict with other principles, but to be logically connected to, does it have justifatory power? Those three things. It doesn't seem, does it avoid kind of arbitrariness? It seems it's impossible that a proposition or even a non-doxaxic state could possess those. That's why Russ Mannion and my godson Tony says those things aren't persons. They can't reveal. And if they're not persons and can't reveal, they can't explain the whole. Right? There's nothing in the parts. So, interesting enough, foundationalism already has to presuppose a whole kind of metaphysics and epistemology within its one piece, right? Either a non-doxaxic, properly basic, or not. So it's contradictory in that sense. There are no further justifications other than this piece, but there is. They sneak it in. Furthermore, if they reject that, and we say, okay, I'll tell you how it doesn't explain a lot of stuff. So it doesn't actually, it's being offered as a justification, but it doesn't actually explain how it is a justification. But just trust me, bro, it is. Couple different things. It assumes self-evidence that a proposition or a cognitive non-doxaxic state could actually be a justification. How do I know that? Without presupposing the thing that I want to. Well, they'll say, because then you're on an infinite regress of justifications. Well, how do I know that's not? Why isn't that illegitimate? Well, because we just all decide. So then they might find self-evidence is, well, it's just definitionally axiomatically true that if you understand what the words mean, then it is the justification for itself. Well, first of all, that begs the question of, we don't even know if we have understanding and knowledge. So you assume the exact thing that you want to prove, that you do have it, and then you say, well, this is it because the other is impossible. Well, how do we know that infinitism's not? Furthermore, you have the problem in foundationalism of arbitrariness. If your foundation is A, and it's a first principle, and the foundationalism says that there must be some basic belief or state in which there is no further justifications, then I could have a not A as a foundation, and there's no reason, by definition of foundationalism, there's no further justifications and reasons why I should choose A versus not A. So it falls into God in his revelation doesn't have that problem. He explains the whole. He's in a position to reveal. He's in a position to know because he's created. Propositions, axioms, and first principles are not persons. They're not creators. They do not stand behind the universe and create it and are in a position to not only know, because it's the person who created the universe, but a position to reveal. That's why it's a radically different category. So then somebody might take the coherentist view. Well, foundationalism is bunk. You have the problem of circularity that the foundationalist doesn't allow. And that's the other thing, too, is that foundationalism doesn't allow circularity, but it introduces circularity. So it's contradictory. So the person might go into, well, I'll allow a level of circularity at the level as long as the circle's big enough. Well, that's a foundation. The one thing that coherentism wants to get around is foundationalism ends up being foundationalism, because the proposition that coherentism is the justification is the foundation. And so it contradicts itself. And so you go through every possible way, and it's like none of those things by themselves can justify and reveal that knowledge exists. They can't do it without falling into the one thing that they don't allow. Obviously, revelatory theism doesn't have that problem. Does that make sense? Of course, we're epistemic holists. We're the Catholic Church. That's what the one Holy Catholic and Apostolic Church means. Catholicos, according to the whole. It doesn't say you can pick a piece of the revelation and justify the entire thing by that and build off of that. The parts are justified by the whole. So yes, in that sense, you're an epistemic holist. But we don't start with a system of epistemic holism as a autonomous. We say the whole is revealed to man, because the one who created the whole is in a position to know the whole and all the parts and put all the parts the way they are. It can't be otherwise. And then he reveals that. So he's not only in a position to know the whole because he created it, he's in a position to actually reveal it. Yeah, and coherentism isn't just consistency either. Because you could have a whole bunch of logically non-contradictory, consistent positions that are not even related to each other. Triangles have three-sided geometrical figures. Blue is a color. Trees grow and use photosynthesis. Like, none of those things are logically connected to one another. They just don't contradict. But our system is logically connected together. Why? Because God created it and sustains the being of it all. Right? So, in that sense, everything is not only consistent within the revelation, it's logically derived, right? They're all connected because they're in God. In Him we move and live and have our being, as St. Paul says. Yeah, Joseph, thanks for... That was intense, wasn't it? I had no idea it was going to get that intense, the talk with but it was really good. I don't know him, so I can't really comment on his position, Dr. Siegewade. Holy Epistemus. Yeah, that's good. So again, the only way to really understand this is autonomous man from his space of reason and mind alone can, apart from divine revelation, can never justify. And that's another good question too. And that's why I like Barry Stroud's argument. Even if you created an epistemic holism and had a transcendental deduction in which you were able to internally logically justify things through some sort of transcendental deduction, that doesn't tell you there's an external world. You never get outside of your head. There's no verification principle that anything of the things that you're talking about. So, again, none of the autonomous positions can overcome the radical challenges of skepticism. God can. Why? Because He's the only one who stands over and above and behind the universe and is in a position to know, because He knows what He creates. And He's in a position to reveal. Can you hear my cat? Hey, bud. That's Jax. I get so used to it, I forget. He gets worked up about something. I don't know what. We talked about this yesterday too. Why do I have to justify logic? It just is. Well, why do I have to justify anything? Why can't I, if you're allowed to do that, why can't I just say anything? How do you know? I mean, again, there's vicious circularity. How do you know that you don't have to justify logic? You're just literally asserting it. So I have two people, one saying logic doesn't have to be explained or justified, and another person, how do I know which one's right without begging the question? Yes, we would agree logic is a necessary condition for, but there's levels of necessary conditions, right? Why are you allowed to just stop at logic? But furthermore, it doesn't explain. Logic itself is a list, individual parts of propositions, rules, and axioms. How do we know that those go together? How do we know that they're normative? Why is it binding? Logic doesn't explain normativity that you ought to follow. Why isn't it just like a game that we make up? We had, growing up, tetherball and handball, in which we just, by fiat, define certain rules. If you want to play this game, this is the rules. Here's the rules of chess. You don't have to play the game. Now somebody could say, well, you use out to lose. Okay, but that just means I can't get out of the logic box. That still doesn't explain, is it true? Does it correspond to the world? Is it knowledge? Doesn't explain that. And is it an ought? Which is really interesting because it kind of backfires. If I can't get out of it, it puts you in a worse position that there's an ought. An ought implies a can. So, yeah, propositions and rules don't explain anything. They're just arbitrary. They're axiomatic. They're just like, well, this is how we play the game. So that's why you have to go beyond and above logic. Logic can't explain why it's normative, if it's true, and whether it serves to be principles for knowledge. It's just literally what we just say it is. It's now, of course, we as Orthodox agree with that. Just like we agree with a lot of things in different disciplines, that, yeah, at the lower levels, they are necessary conditions for the level even lower than. But those principles still have to be explained and justified. Yeah, cats don't like closed doors. They feel their options, their freedoms being taken away. And they get curious. Hear it? Meow meow. Meow meow. Meow meow. Can one appeal to? Yeah, we believe in the principle of sufficient. Is that enough, though? So notice the difference between a necessary condition and sufficient. Wow. Yeah, tell us about necessary and sufficient conditions, Jax. So all that the principle of sufficient reason is related to logic is a necessary. One among many. So you can't have that as an epistemic starting point because it's not sufficient to explain because there's much more than that. So yeah, of course we believe in every effect has a cause. There's a reason behind. But one can't use it as a starting point because it's only one necessary condition. Ewar Mapping asks, I'm attending a Greek parish and I'm an inquirer. It seems that I have been formerly Protestant, would be received by chrismation. Bishops always have the right and authority to determine how you're received. Always. The bishop may give the priest a discretion. There are limits on that. That would only be possible if you were baptized in a Trinitarian formula. If you're baptized in the name of Jesus, you would not. No bishop would ever allow you to be received by chrismation. And then again, it's a case-by-case basis, and a particular bishop on how they receive Roman Catholics and Protestants who are baptized in a Trinitarian. If the Protestant, even if you are baptized in a Trinitarian formula, and the Protestant has some kind of weird doctrines, you will not be received by, I can tell you that. So that's a conversation that you have to have with the priest. If you weren't baptized, then you'll definitely... There's no chrismation without at least... So I don't know what your situation is. Christ is Lord, yes, absolutely. The history of philosophy really shows the failure of time. Have you noticed that? Nobody's overcome the skeptical challenge. Like, all of philosophy and ancient philosophy necessarily led into modernity and the Enlightenment. Nobody's ever overcome Hume's challenges and the skeptics' challenge. They've just hand-waved and basically created other projects, phenomenology, or just focusing on language and logic, which we talked about last. They're like, well, we'll be out of a job, so let's just pretend like David Hume and these people never brought this stuff up, and we'll just create a new project. We'll bracket, we'll get rid of metaphysics and these claims, and questions about justification, and just still talk about it. We could still do and talk about it, right? That's kind of... It's like, well, that's autonomous philosophy for you. And I never use the term rebaptized. There's one baptism. So if the bishop makes a call for you to receive baptism, it means your baptism was not legitimate. You don't get two baptisms. If he does decide, right, he says the formula is legitimate, but there's no divine grace and energy in there, so we're going to fill the formula with the charism and energies of God, the sanctifying grace that's brought in through chrismation, which we say completes whatever was lacking. Yeah, the one who denies logic can't. Also, I keep thinking about, I would love to know this legally. When people play these stupid, sophistical intellectual game, I wonder if you could literally legally have that as a contract to be like, in which you seize their money, or like they have no justification for renouncing ownership of themselves or something like that. I wonder if you could actually make that an argument legally. They'd be like, this person developed a philosophical argument in which they denied logic, and in doing so, they forfeited they consented to forfeit any justification of ownership, and objections to them being enslaved, and so I've taken them and their property into my own. I would actually really, I just thought about that yesterday, is a way to be like, these guys don't actually believe, like, they don't believe it. They're liars. And you can bring it home to be like, fantastic, I now own you and all your money, and we have a court that will actually, people say, what did we learn yesterday? People say stupid stuff that they don't even believe, or stuff maybe that they do believe, because there's no consequences to those actions. Do you think anybody would be saying this stuff and be like, if you do believe that, you literally forfeit your right to all your bank account, your property, and your life? Nobody would be saying this. I think it's a really good argument, actually. Now, of course, I wouldn't want this for somebody, but it'd be interesting if there was, like, you were able to tie law and philosophy in this way to be like, we now in law accept that as an implicit consent of revoking one's property and rights. Yes. I was baptized in the Antiochian um, church. I did receive, when I was like 7 or 9 or something, a baptism in the Church of Christ. I'm pretty sure it probably was Trinitarian, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. I can't remember exactly. People who might have came out of the Church of Christ will probably tell you. Um, I was just given the option. Do you want a baptism? I'm like, yeah, because I don't know. I'm not comfortable. If the bishop allows it, absolutely I want to take it. Like, why wouldn't I? I'm not going to give legitimacy to the Church of Christ. Nor do I remember the details of the baptism because I was so young. So, yeah, let's be safe. It's allowed. It's blessed by the bishop. I'm taking it. The only situation would be like, if you're in a jurisdiction and the bishop says absolutely not, well, you need to be obedient to. I don't think it's a good idea to like church hop just to get that, because you're going to be baptized into a community. It's fine if you decide, well, you know what, I don't want to be in that particular community, because I'm not going to receive a baptism and I'm going to this. But if you decide that, that's your home. That's the people that you need to be with. Okay? So don't just go and be like, well, I want a baptism, I'm going to go over here. And once I get that, I'll go to another parish. That's definitely wrong. And it's just, it's rule worshipping Pharisaical, like, kind of autism to do stuff like that. Oh my gosh, dude. We just literally went over the vicious circularity. Vicious circularity is a fallacy of weak induction, because the thing that you're using to appealing to, that you're rewording in, basically you're rewording the premise in the conclusion or just referring back to it, and it's not enough to support, right? So it's the thing that you're appealing to and using as justification. Does it do the work? So there's nothing wrong with just, can you explain words without words? No, so there's a level of circularity. There's faculty circularity and stuff so it's just, yeah, but of course, if you really do get a first epistemic principle, it's self-referent. That means there's nothing that stands over and above it that has to justify it. It's self-authenticating. So propositions and cognitive states don't do the work. They're not in a position to know. They're not even persons. They're not omniscient. They're not omnibenevolent. They didn't create the universe, and therefore they're not minds that created the universe to stand behind the universe, who are in a position to know all things because they created all things and in a position to reveal it. So that's why it's a fallacy of weak induction to vicious circularity. But if you asked, okay, well, God, who is in a position to know, is truly an epistemic first principle, why isn't that viciously circular? Because you'd be like, how do you know it? Well, you know it by the principle. That's not vicious circular because the thing that is the first principle is in a position to know and explain, to justify. It's not hard, guys. You're making it way harder than it has to be. Does the things that you put in there do the work? And what I've shown over and over again is nothing in autonomous epistemology can do the work of grounding and justifying it at that fundamental level. Now, of course, we use terms and ideas. For instance, once we've kind of grounded and justified that knowledge exists, then you're free to, kind of look and be like, well, in this particular area with a particular thing, is this have a better explanation? And I kind of approach that the way that you have different scientific theories and paradigms. None of it can actually explain knowledge itself or if it's absolutely true. But once you've already grounded that metaphysically and epistemologically in God, that knowledge is possible and that we can, use things like science to get closer to the underlying structures of reality, or use it pragmatically for the goals that we want, then you can look and be like, yeah, this system is probably a better system than I might appeal to that. But every system has anomalies. I think you should approach epistemology that way too. Once knowledge is justified and grounded, you're free to look and be like, this is abductively a better kind of explanation for these various things I want to talk about. But is it absolute? No. Is it free of anomaly? No system of epistemology is. Let me see if we have any more super chats. We do. Wow, we got a lot to read. John H. On Tuesday's Q&A, you spoke about a little bit about Kant. Can you expand on what you mean if you can't do metaphysics? Then you're left with language, math, and logic. Are language, math, and logic unrelated to metaphysics? Well, we believe it is. But Kant's distinction between the noumenal and phenomenal world, the world as it really is, that's metaphysics. And Kant showed that basically, we can use this too, autonomous reason, pure reason, goes far beyond its abilities. Think about this. Hume woke him up from his dogmatic splendor. So, Knowledge requires what? Causation, that there's causation in the world. Identity over time. That the future will resemble the past. And that's not in your mind, out there. So in metaphysics, the out there, the structures of the universe. That the world provides not, like, there's all these kind of metaphysical claims. Now, what did Hume show? All those are just from autonomous reason, justification. You don't, there is no causality out there. At best, you have temporal succession. One dang thing after another. It is an imposition. So you don't sense and you do not perceive. You have no contact. There is no causality out there. You can't establish that. That's literally just a made-up fiction that you impose that we just all happen to believe. Now, of course, Orthodox, we can justify that. But the point is, well, without God revealing, like, of course you don't know that. It's just a blind assumption. And furthermore, you have no way of determining, like, you already believe that correlation doesn't equal causation. The temporal succession doesn't. But you have no way of saying, well, in this case, it's temporal succession only and not causation. In this case, it is. It's just a fiction of your mind. Furthermore, it's another fiction and made-up story that when I turn away and come back to whatever sensible object or entity, that it's the same thing. That there's an identity over the two periods of time. Like, you don't know that. That's another metaphysic. That's an assumption about the universe. You don't know that. That the world provides knowledge. You only could do that if, like, well, there's forms out there and blah, blah, blah. You don't know that. And furthermore, if the assumption by the term of modernity is there are no immaterial forms or essences out in the metaphysics of the universe, then of course it can't actually provide identity over time, knowledge. So Hume woke Kant up from the dogmatic slumber of believing all these unjustified metaphysical assumptions about the universe. So what do? Metaphysics is over. None of you are allowed to do metaphysics from autonomous epistemology. None of it can be justified. And so the best you can do is redefine knowledge and language and logic in terms of bracketing and be like, okay, well, there is a world out there because obviously there has to be a cause to an effect. And if I'm perceiving something, again, this breaks down because how do I know the principle of sufficient reason suffices? But he just assumes that. So what I am immediately exposed to is phenomenon. So either I just fall into skepticism and like I can't even know anything in the phenomenal world, or you do something like Kant does, do the critique of reason and the transcendental deduction and of perception, and be like, okay, well, there's necessary conditions logically. They're called the a priori categories of reason. There's 12 of them, which are subsumed under the general categories, a priori categories of space and time, which become the forms of intuition. That doesn't mean I have a hunch or anything like that, but there are the logical and mental categories that actually make predication and the sensations of the phenomenal world even possible. And then you get the whole critique of, and that's why then if everything switches to either phenomenology or you focus on the logical structures of language, knowledge, and logic itself. And so the forms we can't say are outside there because that's a metaphysical claim, so I put them in here. So I stay within the phenomenal realm. Does that help explain? That's basically the critique of pure reason. Noah Strong donates $20. Thank you so much. No questions, but God bless. We appreciate your endlessly, Father. Thank you so much. Thanks, donates and tips $1. Christ is risen. Indeed, he is risen. Thank you for doing these streams. Joseph Scambra, $20. Thank you so much, Joseph. And it was a pleasure to see you at the St. Paisios. By the way, data is a metaphysical claim. Hume does use... First of all, what does data mean? That's the first thing. Information? Well, now you're right back of positing forms, and you're doing metaphysics, and materialists don't believe that. At best, you could say sense manifold. Particles. What's hilarious about the materialists is they can't even define what matter is. What is matter? Is it the kind of shadowy becoming world of Plato? In which case, it's not actually real. And it has no causal efficacy. No modern materialist will say that. Is it Aristotelian matter? Is it potency as it corresponds to the immaterial forms? So matter properly disposed to immaterial forms and immaterial forms properly disposed? No, because that implies immaterial stuff. So it's not Aristotelian. Is it Cartesian matter? Stuff that's extended through space? Maybe. I don't know. Is it Leibnizian monads? And that gets you farther away from what probably atheist obviously would want. Is it subatomic particles? Then we start getting into subatomic particles, and it's like, well, then it starts actually looking like you're now in the category of immaterial. Is it string? Is it energy? They can't even how can you be a materialist? It's like, you can't even tell me what it is. How can you tell me, like, well, it's data, and you can't even define these terms? Don't let these people get away with this stuff. They have no idea what they're talking about. The emergent properties of matter. They're always saying that. It's like, you're an idiot. Emergentism was designed, philosophy of mind, to refute materialism. So, these people are so lost, and they're just verbal diarrhea, to be honest. They're just spitting out a bunch of words that sound nice. At best, you might grant them a sense manifold. Let's look at Hume. All right, that's definitely not what they want. Hume's sense. Because notice what, if you get them to a certain level, talk about what it's not connected. There's no logical connection because there's no forms. And this is really what sense manifold. Or maybe he just calls it the manifold. And this applies to the self, too. That was the other thing, too. Another metaphysical assertion, there's a self. And a self is a continuing entity that's connected and that connects. Can't say that. Hume showed us that. And he uses the term of manifold. The world, including yourself, at best, is a bundle of perceptions. What's a bundle? It's not connected anyway. You just arbitrarily, fictionally connect and be like, oh yeah, this is This is a book. So by data, for the materials, that's the best they get, right? Is congratulations. That's not information. Doesn't tell you anything, right? It's just like a bunch of particles and bundle that are unconnected. That's what Hume's manifold is, and Kant talks about that. Paige Strong donates $20. Wow, thank you so much. What do you say about the objection that since we don't understand everything about God, it's okay to be unclear at some things for them? Atheists. So, well, they just lost the argument because they just admitted God. So that would only be true on the assumption that God. Number two, which things matter? Of course, they're making epistemic statement. Do you know that? That it's okay to be unclear about some things, namely God. How do you know that? So it's just self-refuting. I'd get them before they even say where material data is. Like, they don't even know what they're talking about by that term. That's why I said go to, like, what do you even mean by that term? And watch them try to explain. And it's the same thing with, like, people today. Ask somebody to tell you what rights are. Then you can, like, first of all, like, it's what plants need. Remember that from Idiocracy? It's what governments give. It's what plants need. That's the level of these people. Then there's the factual. So you start with the semantic. Like, do you even know what you're talking about? What does that word even mean? They don't know. Then you can be like, well, here's your options, and then you find that, like, all those options are the exact thing that they don't want to accept. So they're factually incorrect as well. Okay, let's see. And again, get the materials on this. If everything's matter, then you have to define what matters, and they can't tell you what that is. That's interesting enough. But materialism is really easily refuted. I refuted materialism in my argument for the immateriality of the intellect. That's good. No one's ever overcome that one. Number two, there are all the irreducibility of conscious arguments and philosophy of mind. There's probably like 12 of them that refute. There's the argument from ignorance. They don't even know what matter means. I'm trying to think. Should be like top 5 arguments against materialism. Materialism is accidentalism, and it's a defeater for knowledge, as well as materialism itself, even before I even get into accidentalism. Depending on which way you go on materialism, if you take materialism to imply determinism, then there's another defeater for knowledge and for the position that determinism is true. Is that 6 arguments? 6 arguments that even your 7-year-old could learn. I'm going to actually make that book. 6 arguments refuting that are so easy that even your 9-year-old could learn. And we just did them right there. And what? Less than 2 minutes, I gave 6 arguments literally refuting. That's how easy it is. Nominalism, actually, material. So there's an argument from nominalism too. Against nominalism, materialism would apply nominalism. Nominalism is false. Either makes knowledge impossible, or there's other ways to. It contradicts. There's several refutations of nominalism. So that's number 7. So 7 arguments. No, Grunt, this is easy. Think about it. Anybody can get this. 7 arguments. Let's recap. Why materialism is retarded, and that even your 9-year-old could get. Father Deacon Ananias' argument from the immateriality of the intellect, which is a logical argument from all valid deductive argument and sound arguments refute that. Number 2, the dozen to half dozen to a dozen arguments in philosophy and mind, the irreducibility of consciousness arguments. 3, the fallacy from ignorance argument. They don't even know what materialism means, so how can they posit they can't even define what that is. 4, the argument against nominalism. 5, the argument from accidentalism as a defeater for knowledge. 6, the argument from contradiction. They'll appeal to the things that materialism denies. What was the 7th one? Shoot. Oh. The argument from if it implies determinism as a defeater. Best introduction to philosophy. How old are you? I need to know age, what level of education. It's too hard to just a blanket. What is your background? Do you have more of a strength in kind of STEM stuff or literary, music kind of? Are you in college? Have you graduated college? Those things I need to know to help direct you. But yeah, pretty easy, just introductory book with Durant. Abject Fool, $20. Is materialism worse than being a person who believes in immaterial things and metaphysics, but is okay with contradictions? That's a good question. Which one's worse? Okay, I think I got this figured out. Materialism will involve contradictions. So if you have somebody who believes in immaterial forms or essences or universals and has contradictions, all things being equal, they're equal at that point. So I would say materialism worse because they add an additional error. So both will have contradictions. Both would be equal if they just had contradictions. Materialism introduces another error. At least the immaterialist has something correct. He just finds himself in contradictions. So yeah, I would say the materialist. Great question. That made me pause for a second. Thank you so much. Do you know what's crazy? I had a dream. It probably because of the stream we did last. I was back at Thomas Aquinas College. How crazy is that? I'm trying to remember, what were the details of the dream? We're going over something philosophically. John H. donates $5. Our cons for antinomies, his way of showing that pure reason, autonomous reason ends up. Yes, exactly. That's exactly it. Yeah, read the antinomies. They're great arguments, actually. I really enjoy it, reading Kant. Oh my gosh, that's what the dream was about. That's what the dream. We were doing Kant. And they were people, I don't remember, like David Patrick, Harry, and Chase were in the dream. I think they were. And it was like their first time reading Kant. And I was upset in the dream because like they were really getting it. And I'm like, that's not fair. I'm like, the first time that I read Kant in undergrad, like I didn't get it. And I'm like, why are they smart? Like they just must be smarter than me. And anyways, it was funny. A funny dream. Human process is great. I can stand up. I can't walk without the crutches because I have to. When you strut, you put all the weight. I can get about 80 pounds of pressure on my right foot, without actually feeling any pain or anything like that. I think once I get about 90, 95, like I can start to feel. So I'm not yet at the level where I can throw the crutches away and actually walk, but like I'm actually like impressed by how fast it's healing. I've been eating lots of collagen. We're all praying that I'll be able to walk upright and serve for the bishop when he comes. You lived in Santa Paula? Oh, that was the other thing in my dream. Joseph lived in Santa Paula near. Is in my dream as I was explaining like how weird Santa Paula was. Santa Paula's a weird. And there's actually a gang presence there too. But it's kind of beautiful at the same time. There's like a creek that runs, there's a little park. What was it called? Stemple Park. But it was just weird. I remember in the dream explaining that like, I mean, you're tucked back in the wood. There is not like there's stuff going on in Santa Paula for. Obviously, they had some great Mexican food. So I think Santa Paula has a large kind of Hispanic agrarian kind of farmer community and stuff like that. That's probably how it came in, and but there's not much in that town other than I guess a couple bars and restaurants. So a drugstore, like, so that's the only, like a market, I guess. That's the only reason we had to go. Like, so when we were in Thomas Aquinas, if you wanted to go do anything, you had to go to Ventura, and even, which is like what 35 minutes away. Even Ventura was a sleepy town. So then it was like if you really wanted to like do something during the weekend, you drive to Santa Barbara or Los Angeles. Was the weird, yeah. Salvo, again, don't worry about jurisdictions. Your laity, you're not baptized into a jurisdiction, nor are you married. Every jurisdiction has problems. There's no base jurisdiction. Some more than others. Yeah, that's true. But you're free. What you want to do is you want to think at the local level. You do not want to think in terms of jurisdictions as laity. If there's a good fit, if it's a good priest, who cares if they're Greek? I know a lot of great Greek priests that even if they're under a liberal archbishop, it doesn't affect you. If your parish is good and you've got a good priest, like, that's fantastic. Something happens where it becomes an issue, you're free to leave. That's yeah, Santa Clarita, Camarillo. It's kind of a cool area. I used to surf a lot in obviously Ventura, California Street, at the harbor, and then I would drive down through Oxnard down. Sometimes I would actually go to Zuma Beach, and it had a kind of interesting story. I got in an accident there, a surfing accident once, and hit my head, and forgot who I was. It was a really interesting kind of philosophical. So I worked in the library, and it would, I'd be on the computer all day, looking at Surfline, and be like, and these beautiful Santa Ana winds came in, and you could go on the surf cams, and I was looking, and Zuma is cool because it's never crowded. Zuma is the northern part. Also, I would go down to Carrillo Beach and County Line. County Line's the county line on Los Angeles, and so you had to drive to go surf. And so I'm looking on the computer and I see that's a perfect day. That's just very, very little wind, but it's still offshore. It's really dry from the Santa Anas. And I took off work and I'm going surfing. I went down and I had a 9. I'm a longboarder. And when I used to surf, I had a 9-foot boards strapped on my Volkswagen Beetle. 1970s Volkswagen Beetle that I restored, and I drove down to Zuma Beach. It was perfect looking. In fact, I took a picture of. I'm gonna find it. I always like when I'm talking to you guys to find the pictures that associate, so you know that they're real. Let's see. I wish Okay. Wow, it's weird looking through some of these old photos. Come on, Zuma Beach. Anyways, as I go through this, this is going to be way down at the bottom. I'll keep talking. The waves were beautiful because they weren't blown out, because there were no onshore winds, and the water was just crystal, and the waves were really fast. And what happened is that the wave was, shooting a barrel so fast that it pulled my surfboard up and it smacked me right in the nose. It happened so fast. I didn't even see it happen. It happened so fast. And the analogy I like to use is it's if there was a sniper on the shore that fired a round off in my face. That's what didn't even see it coming, and immediately lost consciousness. But I had the instinct to hold my breath. I was when I went up, and it wasn't long that I lost consciousness, maybe just for a few seconds. But I came up out of the water, and my face was numb. I couldn't actually feel the pain yet. But there was blood coming out of my nose, and I was like, what? I couldn't figure out what happened. And then I had this just bizarre, weird feeling. The only thing I could describe it as feelings that you would get on psychedelics or something like that. I almost kind of outer body, disoriented. My time was all messed up. And so you're just talking, kind of relating back to stuff that we're talking with Immanuel Kant. I didn't have any like categories to kind of categorize where I was at, what I was feeling and looking at, and stuff like that. And so I was just literally left in kind of a phenomenal experience. And so I had this weird qualitative, like, uncanniness, or like, whoa, what? And I could feel my thoughts were kind of swimming around, like they're all not connected. So we're talking about connections. And there was no ordering. So because I knocked my head and I didn't have these kind of logical categories, one of which was time and space, right? That got messed up. I had basically thoughts and images popping into my head that weren't connected sequentially in chronological time. So I couldn't actually determine near memory, like memories of near recent thoughts, anticipations. Think about this. You even have a memory of thoughts about thinking about future events. So not only do you just have, I have memories of past things, and these are further out in the past than you actually have memories of your thoughts in the past thinking about the future. And they're all swimming around, and I couldn't figure out, and I'm like... So the first thing that I was trying to figure out was, in unfamiliar territory. So I know I at least have enough sense to realize, well, I'm surfing. I'm at a beach. But because of the uniqueness of the day and just how amazing it was, that wasn't from... I didn't know where I was, because it wasn't like you experienced it that much. And I'm like, where am I? Also, I lost direction. I realized that I couldn't tell if I was facing north or south, or where, if I was on the East Coast or the West Coast. That was weird. Then, I had this so I'm trying to figure out, where am I? Because I don't remember. I must be a place that I don't go to normally. So then this thought comes up in my head. You're in college. I'm like, I'm in college. But then I had a memory of a thought of anticipating a graduation and graduating Thomas Aquinas College. Now, what I couldn't determine, I'm like, am I in college or am I done? And I just have this memory. I have the memory because obviously I was going to graduate soon. Maybe I've already graduated. Then I had a memory of planning. Oh yeah, I remember planning that I was going to go travel in like South America and surf and stuff, and Central America after graduation. And I'm like, maybe that's where I'm like, maybe I'm in a foreign land. Maybe I'm in Latin America surfing, because I certainly don't recognize. I was so frustrated. Then I started to realize, I'm like, I forgot my name. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't even know. So notice that your identity, that I have this name's connected to the chronology of thoughts and memories and stuff like that. So I just had to like choose I'm like, well, I'm either in... It's this weird kind of like detective case. I'm either somewhere nearby that's familiar and I'm not recognizing it, or I'm in a different land, state, countries, like... So I'll get more information. I'm going to walk towards the parking lot, because that'll solve the problem. If I'm if I'm at home somewhere, then obviously, and nearby, I have a car. So if I walk to the parking lot and I see my car, then I know. And I do, and I find my Volkswagen Beetle. And then I got into, I'm like, okay, so I'm somewhere near. Fairly near. I'm in the United States, I guess. I'm obviously in the West Coast, it's probably California. So then I'm like, but I don't know my name. So I'm like, well, I have a wallet. And got my wallet out. And then I was like, oh, this is my name. So the next thing I did is I had, one of the old cell phones, because this was back in 2003. I'm like, okay, here's the next piece of information that you got to kind of, it's like the movie Memento, right? That's what I had to, I'm like, I'll have names saved on my phone that are friends, and I'll call them and ask questions and just tell them what happened, and then I'll get a better idea of like where I'm at, where I gotta go, because I didn't even know where to go. I'm like, again, I didn't have I lost direction. I didn't know. I'm like, I don't know if I drive that way or this way, because I don't know where I'm at. So, of course, I start calling people on my phone and nobody's answering. I'm like, well, this is Eric. I need help. I hit my head and I can't remember who I am. I had to look at my wallet and I don't know where I'm at. And I could feel that it was coming more to my senses. Like more stuff was kind of coming back, so I was hopeful. And then I'm like, well, I got to act. I got to do something. I got in my car and I'm going to pick a direction. And I did. And thank God I picked the right direction. I was on PCH and I drove north. And as I'm driving, more and more stuff's coming back. I'm like, I haven't graduated yet. I know exactly where I'm at. I haven't graduated. But that was a really weird experience, and it taught me a lot just philosophically, that I'm like, wow, there's kind of necessary to even that basic perception of like, and where I'm at, direction, your name, it's all tied to those categories. So if you hit your head hard enough, like it'll all come undone. And I realized the kind of necessity of the category of having some sort of kind of a priori category, program of time in your. I'm like, that's essential. That's why, solitary confinement, people lose themselves, they fall into madness, is because time is necessary, for you to be able to hold your identity of who you and what you are. And so I always found that as a really interesting philosophical, I gotta categorize these pictures. There's gotta be like, folders. We're almost there. Here it is. Found it. All right. So let's see how you guys are doing in chat. Matt Johnson does $5. My dear stupid nephew drove drunk Saturday night and was involved in a terrible accident. A long road. Wow. My prayers. Yeah. May God turn what is evil into good and make the evil good, as we say the liturgy of Saint Basil. Abject Fool, $100. Oh my gosh. God bless you. Is the immaterial... I can't take your note. That is amazing. Everybody gets a shout out to Abject Fool. And let's read his question. Is the immaterialist who knowingly accepts contradict worse than the materialist? Same question, but with an additional point. The materialist could eventually accept an internal critique despite the limitations, but other wouldn't care, right? What would your answer be? Well, I think you're going to have to like... what we mean by worse is, I think, in terms of errors. Unless we mean disposition. So that's an important point too. So one difficulty would be if you have two positions that are incorrect, which one's worse? You're going to have to add up, well, which one has more errors and which errors are more serious. I don't know exactly why the materialist would be more open to an internalist critique than the immaterialist. that's not clear to me. If that is the case, then maybe the materialist is... There's nothing implicit, let me put it this way. In the immaterialist metaphysical position versus the materialist, that would necessitate that they allow or don't or disallow an internal critique. So then it's just a personal... So the position itself, no. Then we have... we would have to add up, well, which has more errors and more fundamental. I would definitely say materialist. Has a lot more. Eventually, of course, the immaterialist is going to, like a Platonic realist, is going to have problems. But they're obviously, we would like ask any philosopher of antiquity, ancient philosopher, who's closer to the truth. Obviously, immaterialist is. Like a materialist has more fundamental problems and more errors. Then you have to ask, yeah, okay, as far as disposition, which one's more readily to abandon their position? That's hard to say. It would probably be a lot of personal level, but again, why is materialism seems to be a reaction to and rebellion against God and the whole tradition of, in some sense, that puts them in a worse position because they're more unwilling to actually abandon their position because it's motivated out of a rebellion. There's a spiritual element, whereas an immaterialist probably is... Because we believe, like, yeah, you're right about these things. You just don't have a full explanation, or you have some problems. So I really think, obviously, given everything I said, all things being equal, ceteris paribus, materialist is in a far worse position and far further out in terms of error, disposition, and I would even say willingness to allow an internal critique as well. Great question. Great super chat. Thank you so much. So an immaterialist would be willing to be like, yeah, we have a better explanation for the things that you hold. Whereas, so immaterialism isn't patently false. Materialism is. So I think it makes it far worse. And why that theory is created also makes it a lot worse too. So more errors, worse disposition, and it's just patently false. There's nothing true about materialism, whereas there is about immaterialism. Does that make sense? All right, let's look. These old pictures. This is my Volkswagen. After I took the bumper off. This is the Volkswagen Beetle that I restored and painted. I picked these. This is buckskin tan, and Wimbledon white is the. And I wanted to make it two-tone. I love that thing. And here is the day I took the picture at Zuma Beach. There was nobody out there. I thought I had more. Yeah. So I actually posted this in 2008, a long time after. I'm looking out at Zuma Beach, California, the day I got my concussion. Yeah, I got a concussion from that. I forgot who I was. It's like cousin Eddie. Every time he goes to near a microwave because the plate, he poops himself and forgets who he. Remember that from Christmas Vacation? I'll look at some of these. I don't know if I've ever showed you this. So, I can't remember if this is my freshman or sophomore year. So there was a dress code at Thomas Aquinas College, so I took advantage of that, and I would dress. That's me right there. I would dress. I have a cane here. I have this like old leisure suit, and I've put a bunch of bling and like this old pimp hat and stuff like that, just to have fun. And the professors would just be like, "You've got to be kidding me." This is my crew of friends at the James Joyce in Santa Barbara. There's me right there. I used to like that Irish bar there, so I used to take. Is that crazy looking at these old photos? Here's another friend of mine from Thomas Aquinas College and myself. Like, I got into like just dressing funny and stuff, so I had, this is on the Sunset Strip when we went down. Is that the end of the photos? No. That's my PhD. Oh no. It's just stupid photos. Okay. This is my PhD advisor. Why did I do a mini? I was done. I think we went out, or I'd submitted or something like that. We were at a wine bar, really cool wine bar in Dublin. Can't remember the name of it. And we're both shaking because we're happy that I finished my dissertation and submitted it. Yeah, these are all when I was in grad school, probably. Don't do what? Okay. This was my graduation at Thomas Aquinas College. There's me, my grandfather. Do you know what's crazy about this picture? This is one of my best friends, John Marie St. Francis. Everybody in this photo is dead. I just realized that. My grandfather, Bud Sorm, Lloyd. My grandma Cleo, Florence, and my dear friend John Marie St. Francis, who right after this, he was coming down to my roommate's house in San Diego. He lived in San Francisco, and he packed his car. He was going to stay with my roommate from Thomas Aquinas College, who lived in San Diego. And he was passing a truck and flew off an 800-foot cliff and died just a couple days after this photo. So, Lord, remember him. You know, even though he was an Orthodox, he was a wonderful. But that was graduation day, 2003. Can you believe that? That's me in 1996, 97, when I used to have dreadlocks. My little brother, man, he's grown up, and this was a grad school in Ireland. We had a Christmas party, and I dressed up as an elf, and then one of the other students, a friend of mine, he was actually a Marxist, but still, guys, Steven dressed up as Santa Claus, and I was his elf. Let's see. Paris. Jim Morrison's grave. Is that Jim Morrison's grave? I think so. Or is this? Yeah, it must be weird for you guys to see me clean shaven. That was a long time ago. We went to Paris when we were in when I was in grad school, right? Oh yeah, it says 2009 right there. What happened? All right, back to I lost my. Was right in the photos, and then what happened? All right. Sound test. Better? No, dreadlocks were not hard to keep clean. Um, Wait, here's what I had to do. You wash with soap, right? They absorb. It's like a sponge. You have to wash. You have to like wash them to keep them clean. Then you have to wring them out, and then you have to use a rod dryer, hair dryer, rod dryer. Get the rod dryer dread. Rod dryer dread. They'll get mildew just like a sponge. So you'd have to. So to keep them clean and not stinky and like yeah, it took time and a lot of. Crispy, what is the name of that wine bar in Dublin? I'm gonna look it up. It's right in city center. Is it Le Cave? Yeah, it's probably not even there. I know. What if it's not there? What if they took it away? What's crazy is that I don't even think it opened up until midnight. Like it was like a late. No, I'm trying to think if that was the name of it. I need to see the photo. It says it's the oldest wine bar, just steps away from Grafton Street, which sounds right. Le Cave wine bar. Problem is there's a Le Cave in Costa Mesa. Oh, it is. Holy smokes. We cracked the case. Ann Street, yep. That's it. That's crazy. That's crazy, man. Oh, whoa. Wait, what? Wine bar? Established in 1987. It's not that old. You know what the oldest bar in Dublin is, what was the name of it? Over by the Guinness factory. Oldest bar in Dublin. Brazenhead. 900 years old. Can you believe it? Can you imagine having a pint? A pint of your most favorite dark beer on a bar 900. Oh, that looks so good right now. There it is. That's what I remember right there. That may be the oldest bar in the world. Oh, it's Ireland's oldest pub. Somebody looked that up. I'd like to know what is the oldest pub in the world. Man, I'm getting hungry looking at it. Look how good that stuff looks. Crispy, you are so blessed that you have. Yeah. Sean's Bar? What country is it in? Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about what the price is. Sean's Bar. Brazenhead's lying. They can't say it's the oldest. And then at Temple Bar, what was that? We just talked about the other day. We like going to the brewery there. Porterhouse. I wonder if they still have that place. I like going there. Porterhouse. It was like 3 stories. Does this even have sound? Sounds like Are you calling my name? Why? Oh. I can just edit it out when I get... You know, like if it's a song that... And then directly across, like facing me, diagonal, is a place called Turk's Head, if I remember correctly. I want to look and see. Let's see what drinks are. I want to see, Crispy, what the prices are. Well, you know it's bad if they don't put the prices up. Oh man, I remember all these. Chocolate truffle stout, plain porter, oyster stout. Here's some ales, lagers. How much is this stuff? $5.50. Stout's pretty low. Like, stouts up here are really high. Look at this. So this stout's 7.2. Oh, double IPA 8.1. You're going straight to jail. You drink this, you're going straight to jail. In the paddy wagon, lads. You drink the crush proof and you get in the paddy wagon, go straight to jail. Anyways, it's funny thinking about memories. Prices up here are great. At the breweries, pints are usually what, $5 to $6. Pubs is what they call them. Here in Helena, we have Helena, Montana. It's not Helena. I can never figure out why people... St. Constantine, do you call her Helena? St. Constantine and his mother, Helena. And I don't even understand, too, the word doesn't even... It's not spelled Hellana. Can you guys help me figure out why people call Helena? There's Elena, which is a derivative of Helena, but don't ever say that of you. You get shot. Montanans hate that. They'll probably just bury you. All right. Let me try to name all the breweries. We have a town of 30,000 people. We're the capital. Lewis and Clark Brewing. Next door, Beakeasy 51, Copper Furrow, 10 Mile Creek, Blackfoot, Mount Ascension, Missouri River, and then the Tap House. What's the Tap House? Headwaters. That's 5, 6, 8. Here's Lewis and Clark. No, I messed up. Lewis and Clark, we're doing a beer review today. I'm not the biggest fan of their beer, but they're like the place that's known to like have good music and like they have a wonderful stage. I'm gonna get all you guys interested in coming up. So great venue for let's see what the brews are. They have seltzers. You have the flagship. Miner's Gold, Mexican Lager, Prickly Pear. Ooh. What's cool though, excuse me. This is my Carroll College. They did a collab. The Halo, because the Carroll College is called the Saints. Tumbleweeds IPA, Helena Haze, Backcountry, Juicy Obsession, and Golden Ale, and Yellowstone Gold. The only one that I really like is I like the Scottish Ale. I do like the Mexican Lager. I hate wheat ales. I really don't like wheat ales for some reason. I've moved away from kind of IPAs, and I'll drink them occasionally. Copper Furrow, I love Copper Furrow. I was just over there yesterday. They're great. Their Mexi Lager is hands down the best Mexi Lager probably in Montana. And I love this one, Fast Eddie Stout with coffee in it. So you know I'm a fan of the dark beers. They did have a Rotator. They're on the last keg. It's a Mexican chocolate stout. That's what I had yesterday. It was really good. The prices are great. Like I said, $5 a beer. You can get a whole growler for 10. All right, let's go back here. Oh, okay. What is it to... Yeah, how much is it to fill? 15? Oh, 2025. And how many you get in there? 4 or 5 beers? Blackfoot. Excuse me. Blackfoot probably has some of the best beers. Again, I'm not a fan of the ales too much. This is a nice summer beer. Pilsner, check. Lagers. I do like Gozas. And of course, the Scottish Ale and the organic porter. Fantastic. Oh, I forgot another one. So we have 10 Mile. Did I mention 10 Mile? 10 Mile, I want to give a shout out. They are, in a sense, a sponsor for MontaNIKA. Every year, they hook us up with a wonderful deal with a keg. So they're one of our sponsors. They're in the downtown walking mall right there. My favorite, obviously, the dark beers. Right now, I think we'll probably be doing the chocolate milk stout for the conference. And beer choir, what in the world? They got another Mexican lager. They have, I think, this one's actually interesting. Lemongrass Ginger Pale Ale. Mount Ascension. Mount Ascension does good beers. Well, I haven't been there for a while. Wonderful view, though. Like, they hands down have the best view of all the breweries. They've got this. It's 2 stories up here, basically looking over the whole downtown, and then Mount Helena right there. On tap. Let's see what they have. Whoa, happy hour, $4 beers. Whoa! A lot of IPAs, hazy pales, Kolsch. This is good. I like Kolsch's. Look at this. This one's good. I love this. Pay Dirt Coffee Stout. Seltzers are really big right now. So what are the seasonal? Doppelbox, love Doppelbox. Wow, 7.4 ABV. That's Czech lager. Schwarzbier. Have you ever had a Schwarzbier? If it's dark, I'm for it. All right. We're covering all the... Who's calling me? It's probably my... Missouri. I think it's the orthopedic saying, you reminder of your orthopedic appointment next week. They can leave. Beer menu. They never update. I like this one, white stout, really interesting flavor. El Guapo. That's gotta be a Mexican lager. Root beer porter's actually interesting. This is pretty sweet, but it's good. Butterscotch oatmeal stout. All right. Speakeasy. Easy. 51. Sorry. That's where the 41 state. Oh, I got that. This is next door. These guys are great owners. I like them a lot. Oh, it's Island liquor. I ordered the wine for the conference. What is this? This is weird. Why? I know. Hold on. Speakeasy. I gotta go. Do they show what they have on? Alright, I think we covered most of it. I don't know. I just thought it was cool to review beers. My wife's like, "Why are you doing that?" I'm like, "I don't know." Like, all right, let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. I haven't checked in for a while. Object Fool, thanks so much again for that amazing super chat. Yeah, Christopher, you got it. It was South Ann Street. That's great. Correct. I remember when I was back in Dublin, there were Orthodox churches, and it's been growing. So, yeah, I try to stay away from the IPAs too because of the phytoestrogens. This is my favorite stream. Yeah. The other one is. So that was Island Liquor. All the wine's ready. So, I'm trying to think if I should pick it up and take it down to church on Sunday. Maybe I can have somebody help me with that. I'm crippled. That's why. Don't ask me that. Also, we have a distillery in Helena. Okay. Now, Headwaters Craft House, they get a lot more beer because they're a craft house, not a brewery, but it's more expensive. But if you, in fact, our first Orthodox MontaNIKA, which was held in Helena and not in Butte, one of the evening meetups was here. Interesting enough. But it's cool that they've got their menu here that you can pick dark beers. And they just pull from different, like, for example, they got one from Mount Ascension, Knob Hill, brown ale, let's see, here's a milk stout. And the prices just range. Barrel-aged stouts are always going to be more expensive. So look at this one's $11. This isn't even barrel stout, but it's $10 for. Sometimes you get a half pour and stuff like that. I love coffee stouts. I like the gozas. I like sours. Let's see barrel aged. So if you like that and you want to try it, like, this is a good place to actually try. Oh, that's a bottle. That's why. Mexican chocolate imperial stout. Those are good. They also do wines, gluten-free beers, non-alcoholic beverages. My favorite are like, they get spicy, like jalapeno or poblano. It's hard for me to do a hef because it tastes like bananas to me sometimes. Once in a while I can get a good hef. Speakeasy does a good hef, and they put habanero in it, which is awesome. Ciders, I like ciders, but they can't be sweet. I hate sweet stuff. After I cut out sugar, I don't want it. I can't handle it. All right. What do you mean Orthodox rule when a person has celiac? They have to take communion. I mean, nobody has to do anything. We've never seen anybody get sick or have a problem from communion who has celiac disease. Now, you don't have to give them a huge portion. We have somebody who's two people who are really severely celiac, and we just give them a little, like a little fragment, but it's a great test of your faith. Do you believe it's the body of Christ? If not, you can not partake and not be healed. Everybody's free to do whatever they want. Yeah, and isn't that interesting? I think, first of all, celiac disease didn't exist before. You could change. I think that you could change that with your diet, like especially as Banhammer points out. GMO. It's probably something to do with GMOs, the modification of wheats and stuff like that. What's Alberta beer? Donuts? It's liquefied donuts in beer. I actually prefer the other stouts to Guinness. I'm a boxman. Franzia person. John H. donates $5 regarding the post-Kantian thought, which severs language, mathematics. How did Aristotle understand the relationship among these domains? Did he believe his logic was capable of operating abstract from metaphysical concerns? Aristotle's logic is grounded in immaterial forms, and so he has a peripatetic axiom. There's nothing in the mind that was in the intellect that was not first in the senses, because so Aristotle's logic is an abstract systematization that is grounded and has reference to immaterial forms and entities, and that's why Aristotle's logic differs from Boolean modern logic, which concerns existential import. So Aristotle's logic, because it's grounded in existing things, in material forms, has existential import. So the logical change, depending on whether that thing, the truth values of Aristotle's logical propositions will change depending on whether that thing exists, and whether it's a valid argument will be determined whether there is such things as leprechauns. How for universal statements, for Boolean logic, because it's not grounded, it's already divorced from metaphysics, it's just a complete abstract systemization. For universals, there is no existential import for either universal, formative, or negative. So that's, yes, he believes it's grounded in reality, whereas modern logic doesn't make that move because it's already rejected metaphysics. Good question. I would definitely warn, if somebody does not believe it's the body and blood of Jesus Christ and can heal and overcome any ailment or disease, you should not approach the chalice. Like, you're approaching unworthily. So I would say that in some sense there's a sort of kind of excommunication in terms of her beliefs, and she should not approach until she works those things out and overcomes the fears and gets more grounded in the faith. because she doesn't want to eat condemnation upon herself. But those are not optional things in Orthodoxy. This is what people like, can I become Orthodox and not take him? It's like, no, you can't. Can I be Orthodox and not venerate? No, like there's... So, you can, in the sense, do the things that are not Orthodox because you have free will, but it's not Orthodox to do that. And there's bad things that occur. Is that bread ready? Oh, I thought you were cooking bread. She needs to talk to the priest. Yeah. But think about it. Until she receives communion, she's outside of communion. So it's a dangerous place to be. Like, so you know, you don't want to pressure too much, but like there is a sense of urgency of like you are outside it's almost a form of kind of penance and stuff, because remember when we're going on penance, like those people who did certain sins were banned from partaking of the chalice. So she has kind of excommunicated herself to that point, and she won't be receiving graces from like... So it's not a great place to be. What a great stream today. Do we have any more people purchase tickets for the MontaNIKA? Let's see if there's anybody. Oh, Andrew must be in California. Looks like he's in a hotel room. Wait a minute, did he break his arm?
What a fucking... She grabs the weight. She throws it up.
Oh, he did.
Please, bro.
He... Oh wow, that stinks. He's in the same place that I was, but he's got an arm. If you're still inquiring, like, you don't have to worry about. I've never even heard of that, where they just give the blood. Like, again, we have people that are deathly allergic to gluten. They have severe celiac, and we're able to put a little piece of the body on. It's not a big piece, and they've never had any problems. And that's the most severe cases of... Oh, okay, I got it. Yeah, you're right. You're right about Andrew. He's making a joke. He probably just sprained it. I'm trying to open up a jar. I've almost felt like I broke my hand sometimes. You get a jar that you're just like... Injury. Injury. Cool message I got here. Let me just check real quick before we end. Man, my wife's baking bread smells so good. Looking for news. John C. Riley stars as Buffalo Bill and Heads or Tails. My brother produces. John C. Riley's got a band, and my brother actually produces and records his.
Play it again.
All right, okay.
Man, this thing,
Yeah, play it again.
This thing right here. Mountain Lion with a Grin. Where is it?
This is
Joe, if you
exactly
wanna
what I
go
wanted to
ahead
say
and
to that
give,
olive
like
jar.
a final
just
thought,
like
tell
this.
everybody
Oh,
fuck
the
off, whatever you
Northern
want to do,
Bitterroots.
go for it.
Thing,
Yeah,
man.
first off, I have to say, despite the constant interruptions with Mel, I actually
want it
thoroughly
as a
enjoyed the
pet.
conversation. I think that it gets a little exacerbating when you hear, like, particularly interruptions.
Isn't that
It's
awesome
here,
looking?
moderator Mel, despite the differences in the interruption and stuff, handle discussion really might discuss things with become. I enjoyed it. Be fan.
It's me.
Sarah, we'll see you.
See you, Rob.
You're
Could I just go last to respond to anyone else on this
Fly
panel who might have
fishing
something to
at
say
North
that
Fork.
disagrees with me?
Right there. Hang on. Pause it.
Blackfoot. I know where that is.
Pause it.
Oh my.
Man, look at all those.
You can
logs, though.
you can literally watch Sarah. Well, because she's a dumb blonde, right? So it takes a
Oh, I
minute.
can't wait for the foot to heal up.
You can
to
see it
get-
takes a minute for it to
back.
process in Sarah's brain how pissed off that just made her. It like
On
it
this
took a
panel who might have
good
something to say.
took like a
Sarah,
good
we'll
5
see you.
seconds.
Ooh, that looks
See you,
good.
Rob.
You're
Could I just go
Rob,
last to respond to anyone else on this
Look at
panel who might
that.
have something
Here we
to
go.
say
Man,
that disagrees with
hungry.
me?
I haven't eaten.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh my God, Mel, just give your
Oh,
final
yeah.
thoughts.
I used to love it here. Watch this.
It's just like it takes her because she's dumb blonde, right? So it takes like 5 seconds, and then
The crowd will be
once it
mostly on the
processes,
beach.
she just loses her fucking shit. It just loses her shit. Let's watch it. I want to see it.
So I can kick you out and consider this your final panel here.
We're gonna be like that. So cool. So
Yes, I'm going to
Like
be
a
like
flow
that.
skate.
I'm tired
It's
of you
only
disrespect.
There's only like a foot or two.
Yeah, Flow State's just having the time of his fucking life
What
right
happens
now.
is the swell hits the
See me, I'm
sun.
tired of you constantly telling me what to do with my own fucking shit. I'm tired of you asking for me to let you up, and then you come up here and you fucking bitch and moan because, oh my God, he's interrupting me. But then you yourself are interrupting every fucking
Okay, hang on,
person
hang
on
on,
this
Mr.
panel.
Yates.
And then
They say bring up the part where Mel mentions Jim Bob.
So it's important you land properly, or you can really get bent.
Yeah, let's look at this one here.
How long has Japan had this singles tax? If Trump was smart, he'll propose for the singles tax. What do you mean the singles tax?
Tax benefit. That sounds like
But the problem is like Jake, because he has a thick Australian accent, he can't do the Mick very well. Like the get up, rock. It's not his thing. So it wouldn't quite play out. He'd like lean out the window and go, "Hey, get the pickle jaw, governor." However the fuck they talk. It would be something like that. So $1,708, 34%. Thank you guys so much for assisting me during my time of need. You can see my wounds are very bad. Very bad. I'm holding on to the coffee, not because my hand's not all fucked up and
I've
jacked
never
up and trying to
surfed
open
here.
that
Like,
jar,
I
but
just can't
because
understand
the
how-
coffee's really warm. So that sends relief through my whole arm. The jar was already opened. I know that sound. I'm a fat kid. See? I fucking knew it. Raw Dog knows. It was already open for sure. For sure.
Oh, wow.
For sure it was
not
already
big.
open.
That's a huge surfer. Look how old this 1967.
That's a pop.
That's a big wave spot.
You have pop cope. You are right now saying my pop, dude. Whatever, man. You know what? Even if you guys agreed with me, you'd still give me shit about it. So I don't even believe you. Don't even fucking believe you.
Six of Spades sends in a huge $100 super chat.
I don't care about your sissy medical beer bills for beer and smokes. Cheers, crew.
Let's go.
All right.
Do I even?
It's about time to wrap it up. Let's see if you guys have any questions, and then I'll head out. Yeah, look, Grump, Rokor Synod address to the Celiac. Oh, do I? Sorry. I'm so sorry about that. I forgot that I had it playing. What happened is I left it on, then I turned my audio down. But Andrew's was on. Forgive me. Forgive me. Yeah, I'm gonna get a multiple monitors. That would be a good. How long was it? 5 minutes? Was it loud? It must have been weird. You're listening to Andrew talk while we're watching videos of the wedge. Was that something new for you? I mean, the pictures are what mattered, huh? The video, anyways, for the wedge didn't even have any audio for it. So, I mean, I was just talking about... how intense those waves are. Why am I getting a bunch of libertarian ads on? Oh my gosh. This looks so good. You want to see something? I'm actually getting hungry, that's why. Mashed potato pancakes with ground beef. Does that not sound awesome? Blackfoot River, that's the river I fish on. Why does it keep jumping like that? I loved this movie when I was... Empire of the Sun. I forgot John Malkovich and Christian Bale was the kid in there. Cascade, I know where that is. Oh, this is Back to the Future. Oh, this is great. Luca's, one of the best restaurants we have in Helena. Ghost towns in Montana. Easy garbage bread stuffed with cheesy golden. I gotta get these food things. Gotta quit popping up. El Porto. Yeah, I'm getting a bunch of Montana FWP, Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. I gotta renew my license. Oh, this is cool. I've been here, so if you wonder, so the Church of the Holy Sepulchre is here, and yeah, it's on like this hill, right? So the church is over, so there's actually a church here, and the hole that you can look down into that goes down to the cross. And there was the burial chamber of the Holy Sepulchre over here. That's really interesting. Here's Glenn Danzig and Roy Orbison. What is happening? Look at this. Helena, Montana, 1898. So a lot of these buildings are still here. Oh, shoot. That's beautiful, isn't it? Ooh, that's pretty. Anaconda mining, that's a really good history there. You'll learn about that when you come to Butte. All right, we'll end with that. I'm gonna look and see if you guys have if there's any more super chats, questions, and then we'll depart for today. Yeah, I will take a headphone fun. Was it playing so well? I couldn't hear anything from the video, so you guys could hear it? Vic, my prayers. Yeah, I asked the surgeon if I can ski next year. He said no problem. I said at the same level. He's like no problem at all. You know, it's in the ankle that doesn't have really any much mobility, and you're locked in a boot. So they said no problem. I'll be skiing at the same level. It could be an AI image of food, but still, I'm still hungry. Sorry, I can't believe I did that. I erred. All right. It looks like it's time to depart. I want to thank everybody, especially Abject Fool and his wonderful donations. That really helps. God bless you guys. And thank you so much for your prayers too. Looking forward to seeing all you who are coming out from MontaNIKA. Until then, and I see you next, probably tomorrow morning. May Lord God keep you in his grace and protection. Amen. Bye-bye, everybody. Have a good one.